At first, the brushes feel like a miracle. Corey can paint tomorrow before it arrives. But Brush with Madness quickly reveals the darker truth of foresight. Once you know what's coming, you're no longer free, you're responsible. Greetings, schools, and welcome to a dive into horror television. Tonight we explore Brush with Madness from the Haunting Hour. We open and we're at a comic book convention with Corey and Emma. Corey sees Alan Miller, the best comic book creator of all time. We learn that a homicidal fan stalked him so severely that he hasn't been to a convention in 8 years. They wait in line to see him, and Corey can't help but fanboy hard over Alan. He's so excited that he makes a mess of the interaction. Corey tells Alan that he follows him, meaning on social media, but Alan suspects he's a stalker. This is enough to send Alan packing up and leaving the convention early. Alan leaves his paintbrushes behind, so Corey takes them and rushes to give them back to Alan. This is another bad idea, as Alan's freaked out now. Corey is stopped short by his bodyguard, and he never gets to give him his brushes. The next day, Corey is excited to try out his new brushes. His friend Emma tells him he stole them, which is hardly true if he tried to give them back. Corey goes upstairs and attempts to create something extraordinary with his new brushes. Inspiration hits him like a bolt of lightning. And the next day, he shows his work to Emma. The character he created is called the Mad Artist, and he looks really cool. Emma follows up and asks if he's going to return the brushes today, and he says no since his work speaks for itself. It's genius. Later on, Emma goes to check in on her bestie. He's painting on his walls. She thinks he's gone crazy. He's been obsessed since he got those paintbrushes. He doesn't see a problem with it, but Emma sure does. She leaves. This is when we notice that the mad artist is outside his home, just like in his artwork. The art is predicting reality. When he wakes up, he realizes his mom is going to kill him for painting on his walls. He goes downstairs and opens the front door. There's a huge black X on the door. He runs upstairs to look at his art. An X marks the spot of who's next. He puts a picture of Alan up next to the mad artist, and it looks just like him. He keeps looking at his art, and eventually a creepy hand reaches down and touches his shoulder. Nothing is there when he looks up. He calls Emma and tries to explain what's happening. That's when he notices that his closet has a painting of Emma on it. It predicts a creepy car driving up to her. He tells her to get away from that car, and he runs out of his bedroom. The car pulls up on Emma. Someone's about to get out of the vehicle, but Corey is there, so they drive away. They go back to Corey's room. They notice that Alan's house is in one of the paintings. Corey wants to go there and return the brushes. The security at Alan's would be far too great to get to him, so they come up with another plan, to paint more comic strips. Emma goes to get a soda, and when she comes back, the paintings reveal a terrifying scene. Emma's alone and she's getting stalked by the mad artist. This unsettles Emma and she leaves. She wants no part of this. So that night, Corey goes to Emma's house to see if she's okay. It's dark and spooky. There's possible blood splattered on the wall. He smells it and it's thankfully only paint. He goes up to her bedroom and he finds "She's mine" written in red on the walls. He gets on his bike and goes to Alan's home. He walks in with a flashlight and looks around for his bestie. He hears her screaming in the basement, so he goes down there. She's strapped down at a table and he tries to unstrap her, but the mad artist appears. He wakes up tied down to the table next to her. Corey tells him that this can't be real. He made the mad artist up in his art. The mad artist disagrees. It was he who created them. The mad artist pulls down a huge saw. We see the comic version painted by Alan. He finished his comic book about a crazed fan. No one will ever read it. He shreds it and Corey and Emma scream their lungs out. Brush with Madness presents obsession not as sudden madness, but as a slow erosion of boundaries that begin with enthusiasm and end in domination. Corey does not start as a threat. He is socially awkward, emotionally invested, and desperate to be seen by someone he admires. The danger emerges not from malice, but from over-identification. Alan ceases to be a person in Corey's mind and becomes a symbolic figure: success, legitimacy, creative destiny. Once that transformation occurs, ordinary boundaries no longer apply. The episode is careful to show how easily this slippage happens. Corey convinces himself that taking the paintbrushes is not theft because his intentions are pure. He meant to return them. His work will justify the act. This is a critical moral turn. When intent is used to override consent, obsession has already taken root. Art is initially framed as empowerment, a way to be seen, to matter, to turn private feelings into public meaning. For Corey, creation is not just expression, it's validation. The paintbrushes promise access to a higher tier of artistry, a shortcut to legitimacy. Art becomes a form of power, the means by which an overlooked teenager believes he can finally command attention, respect, and belonging. But the episode quickly destabilizes the romantic idea of artistic power. Brush with Madness treats fandom not as admiration, but as a psychological transfer. Corey doesn't simply like Alan's work, he uses it as a scaffold for his own identity. Alan represents everything Corey wants to be: talented, revered, protected by distance and prestige. In that sense, fandom becomes aspirational substitution. Instead of developing a self, Corey borrows one. The danger emerges when admiration quietly mutates into entitlement. Projection is the key mechanism here. Corey projects his own longing for recognition onto Alan, assuming an emotional reciprocity that does not exist. When Corey tells Alan, "I follow you," he means it innocently, but the phrase reveals the imbalance at the heart of parasocial attachment. Alan is a symbolic figure in Corey's inner life, but Corey is a stranger in Alan's real one. The episode underscores how fandom collapses when the asymmetry is denied. Alan's fear is not irrational. It is the fear of being reduced to an object in someone else's psychological narrative. This parasocial attachment fuels Corey's actions. Because he feels a sense of intimacy with Alan, he believes he has a stake in the artist's life and creations. Stealing the paintbrushes, obsessively creating his own artwork, and projecting his desires onto Alan's world all stem from this imagined closeness. The episode illustrates how parasocial bonds can distort perception. Corey interprets Alan's distant reactions as personal affronts, heightening anxiety, obsession, and moral lapses. Parasocial relationships in this episode also blur the line between admiration and entitlement. Corey convinces himself that he can influence Alan's work and even the narrative of his universe through his own artistic acts. This mirrors a real-world dynamic in fandom culture, where intense admiration can create a sense of ownership over the object of devotion. Corey's fantasy of control manifests in literal danger as the mad artist emerges, a tangible embodiment of the consequences of obsessive parasocial engagement. Ultimately, Brush with Madness dramatizes the dark potential of parasocial attachment. A fan's imagined intimacy can override ethical judgment, fuel obsession, and erode the distinctions between admiration, desire, and entitlement. The episode serves as a cautionary tale about the psychological and moral consequences of investing in relationships that can never be reciprocated, especially when fantasy and reality collide. Once Corey takes the paintbrushes, projection hardens into possession. He convinces himself that his creative breakthrough validates the theft, that producing great art retroactively justifies violating boundaries. This is a classic identity shortcut. If I can create like you, I am like you. Alan's actions are shaped by trauma, but the episode refuses to excuse them. His fear of fans is understandable, but it ultimately leads him to create something monstrous. The final reveal that Alan finished a comic about a crazed fan and then destroys it suggests a deep moral failure. Instead of confronting his fear or taking responsibility, he externalizes it into art and then discards it, allowing real harm to occur. Trauma explains behavior, but it doesn't absolve it. Perhaps the most disturbing theme is how Corey and Emma stop being people and become characters. Once they are absorbed into Alan's narrative, their lives no longer matter. They exist only to serve the story. The episode presents this as the ultimate horror, when storytelling strips people of agency and turns them into disposable symbols. In this world, being written about is not immortality, it is erasure. Brush with Madness argues that obsession, creativity, and fandom become dangerous when they lose ethical grounding. Art is not neutral, admiration is not harmless, and trauma does not justify dehumanization. When people stop seeing each other as real and start seeing each other as ideas, the result is violence, whether intentional or not. The episode's final message is bleak but clear. Stories can create monsters, and once they do, no one remains safely outside the frame. Neil Fernley directed this episode, and he's done a few other episodes of the show that were pretty good. The writers were Eric Patterson and Jessica Scott, who have also wrote 13 other episodes of The Haunting Hour. Dylan Monet played Corey, and he's a very talented actor. He was in Scream from 2022 and 13 Reasons Why. Chanel Harquail Ivzak played Emma, and she was also in Sacred Lies and Happy Face. Alan was played by Mackenzie Gray, who was in Man of Steel, Legion, and Fargo. Overall, this episode really stands out as exceptional, and I'll rate it a 9 out of 10 for the haunting hour. What did you think? Let me know down below, as I love hearing from you. Remember to be well and stay spooky.